Hello everyone, I am Dr. Smita Jha, Assistant Professor, Tata College. In continuation with my last video tutorial on Tughlaq, a play written by Girish Karnad, today also I'll be discussing with the outline of the story of the same play. This lecture is meant for the students of semester 5. In my last lecture, I discussed with you about the intrigues of Amirs and the disappearing of Ratan Singh. Today I'll begin with the section Exodus to Daulatabad. Student, the word exodus means the mass departure of people from one place to another. Now, the exodus from Delhi to Daulatabad begins. Muhammad tells Nazib, I want Delhi vacated immediately. Every living soul in Delhi will leave for Daulatabad within a fortnight. I was too soft. I can see that now they will only understand the way. Everyone must leave. Not a light should be seen in the windows of Delhi. Not a wisp of smoke should rise from its chimneys. Nothing but an empty graveyard of Delhi will satisfy me now. He further says, there will be no more praying in the kingdom. Nazib, anyone caught praying will be severely punished. Henceforth, let the moment of prayer walk my streets in silence and leave without a trace. There will be no more praying in the kingdom, Nazib. However, at the persuasion of Nazib, he agrees that they will resume the prayer on the arrival of Ghayasuddin Abbasi, the descendants of the caliphs, and the kingdom will be purified by his visit. They will pray only after such purification. Here, now onwards, Karnad vividly describes the suffering of the people. The people move on to Daulatabad according to the commands of the Sultan. Thousands die on the way and there is much suffering. Cries of lamentation resound in the atmosphere. But rogues like Aziz and Azam thrive on the suffering of the people. They make a lot of money. Aziz, the officer in charge, sits in camp with Azam as his follower. However, they are tired of their petty roguery and decide to make money in a big way. They will no more pinch any coins, they will now make them. They will make counterfeit copper coins and exchange them for silver coins. Such exchange shall be strictly in accordance with the orders of the Sultan. Next, a time span of 5 years passes and we will get a description of a big fort here. 5 years pass, 5 years of great suffering for the people. Muhammad, when only 21, had built a big fort of Daulatabad, a fort so large and strong that it could only fall from within. No enemy could reach it from without. As an old man puts it, yes, it's a long passage, a big passage, quite like an enormous hollow python inside the belly of the fort. And we shall be far for happier when that python breaks out and swallows everything inside, every man, woman, child, and beast. Muhammad, who has now his palace in this fort, is unable to sleep. So he comes to the ramparts of the fort and tells a young Santuri, one night I was standing on the ramparts of the old fort here. There was a torch near me flapping its wild wing and scattering golden feathers on everything in sight. There was a half-built gate nearby trying to contain the sky within its cleft. Suddenly something happened as though someone had cast a spell. The torch, the gate, the fort, and the sky all melted and merged and flowed in my blood stream with the darkness of the night. The moment said its symbols, its questions and answers, and stood naked and calm where the stars throbbed in my veins. I was the earth? Was the grass? Was the smoke? Was the sky? Suddenly, a sentry called from far, "Attention, attention!" And to that challenge, the half-burned torch and the half-built gate fell apart. In this particular section, we see the spiritual loneliness of the Sultan, where the Sultan is already spiritually lonely and tortured within. This becomes clear from the following words of his to Burni. It is not as easy as leaving the patient in the wilderness because there is no cure for his disease. Don't you see the patient racked by fever and crazed by the fear of the enveloping vulture cannot be separated from me? Don't you see that the only way I can abdicate is by killing myself? I could have done something if the vulture were not so close. I could have crawled forward on my knees and elbows. But what can you do when every moment you expect a break to dig into you and tear a muscle out? What can you do? Burni, what vengeance is driving these shapes after me? Here, Girish Karnad actually highlights the frustration of Sultan. In these words, the vulture are his ideals and his aspirations. He is a frustrated man, and the consciousness that his people call Mad Muhammad constantly haunt him, but now he cannot leave the path of tyranny and bloodshed. For the would mean admission of his mistake, this frustration is made worse still when news is brought that Nazif, his trusted vizier, has been murdered. So here is clear-cut shock for Muhammad. Later, he comes to know that it is his own stepmother who had him poisoned, for she felt that it was Nazif who was misguiding the Sultan. Muhammad at once has her arrested and ordered that she be stoned for adultery. Now the section comes where in this moment Sultan is praying. All the same, he is heartbroken and prays, God, God in heaven, please help me. Please don't let go of my head. My skin drips with blood and I don't know how much of it is mine and how much of others. I started in your path, Lord. Why am I wandering naked in this desert now? I started in search of you. Why am I becoming a pig rolling in this gory mud? Raise me, clean me, cover me with your infinite mercy. I can only clutch it at the hem of your cloak with my bloody fingers and plead. I can only beg, have pity on me. I have no one but you now. Only you, you. This is the very heart tormenting prayer of the Sultan. And in this juncture, we see the arrival of Abbasi. Burni soon comes with the news that Ghiyasuddin Abbasi has reached his kingdom and will soon be in Daulatabad. In reality, he is Aziz in disguise with Azam as his follower. Actually, when he does reach Daulatabad, he is given a royal welcome and public prayers are resumed from that moment. However, the people are starving and they want food and not prayers. There is a lot of shouting and crying. When the soldiers try to silence them, they are attacked. In this way, large-scale riots begin to Daulatabad. People are killed in thousands. This is very disturbing for sultans, and in this very juncture, in this segment, we see the murder of Azam. Aziz and Azam have been in the fort too long, with Aziz masquerading as Ghiyasuddin Abbasi. Azam is tired of this idle life and now he wants that they should go out and run away. He is also frightened as he tells Aziz, on the night we came here, I was so nervous I couldn't sleep. So I was standing by the window looking at those heaps. They looked like giant ant hills in the moonlight. Suddenly I saw a shadow moving among them. I stared. It was a man wandering alone in the garden. He went to heap actually. He stood there for half an hour, still as a rock. Then he dug into the heaps with his fist, raised his fist, and let the coins trickle out. It was frightening. And you know who it was? Your Sultan. He does that every night, every single night. It is like witchcraft. Azam tries to advise him not to be afraid and tries to persuade him not to leave the fort as it is the safest place for them, but no avail. He has actually already bribed two employees of the palace, and shortly they would meet them with two friends. He has already tied their belongings to a large bundle. He has been twice through the sacred passes that goes out through the castle. Both of them should run away in this way. Aziz refused to do so, and so Azam goes alone. He is murdered as soon as he comes out of the secret passage, and the horse and the murderer disappears before anybody can see them. After this, Aziz became the governor of Deccan. The news of the murder is brought to Muhammad, and he at once understands that it is the doing of Ajij. So Aziz is at once called, and it soon comes out that he is a Dhobi masquerading as Ghayasuddin Abbasi. Aziz is a crafty man, and he claims to be a true disciple of His Majesty the Sultan. The Sultan is very much impressed by his craftiness, though Barni was that he was trying to spread a net of fine words to ensnare the Sultan, and he should not be taken in by his crafty words. However, the Sultan is most pleased with this clever man, decide that he will be sent to the Deccan as a powerful officer, that he would then go to Arabia and disappear on the way. Aziz agrees to these conditions, and then he is allowed to go to conduct the public prayers as Ghayasuddin Abbasi. After that, the Sultan allows Barni to go to the Barni for the funeral of his mother. At last, tired and exhausted, the Sultan falls asleep on the throne. At the time of public prayer, a servant tries to awaken him but soon gives up the effort. The play ends as Muhammad suddenly opens his eyes and looks around, dazed and frightened, as though he cannot comprehend where he is. Just think, has he gone mad? It is for us to conjecture, for the author has provided no answer to this question. So, dear students, this is all for today. Up next, I will discuss on Tughlaq as a political allegory and as a tragedy of interview. Thank you.